lessons. It doesn't mean that every activity has to have all 4 skills, but if you're doing a speaking, you're probably having listening going on at the same time, right? The same with reading and writing. For this, we want to make sure that we're using storylines and familiar information to them. So, for example, fairy tales. Most children are familiar with fairy tales. They have the storylines more or less memorized. And so using language that involves the same sort of background knowledge that they already have is very helpful, because they can make a stronger connection before that. Also with this, we want to try to stimulate as much as possible the 5 senses. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Okay, for this one, avoid context, reduce language. This basically just means make sure it's meaningful language. Don't give them words and phrases that they don't see the purpose of. If you're teaching them about parachuting, they're probably not going to be going out and parachuting, so they're like, what, why? Unless you're teaching them about parachuting and then you're showing them a Disney movie on parachuting. And then maybe it's more meaningful for them to learn about that. Okay, in terms of the 5 senses, making sure, and this goes obviously back to our multiple intelligences, right? Where we have physical activity, could be role play. It could also be something that we're doing, like you gave the example earlier about reciting poems. They could act out the poems as they recite them, right? Hands-on activities, science projects is the example that I use here, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a science project. It just means that they have to solve something, they have to put it together, and they have to use English to do this. An example of this is last year at Mardi Gras, I had a group of students here to make masks. And at the beginning, everyone was speaking only in Ukrainian. And by the end, we did not get 100% participation, but many of the students had started to use green, yellow, like the actual color names, because we encouraged them to practice while they were making the masks. So every time they asked for something, we'd be like, oh, you mean yellow? And then the repetition yellow, and then they got the yellow, and then the green, and then so it was just continual. So that's also an example of a project. Sensory aids, so just bringing a physical object to the class. Nonverbal language. Pay attention to what you look like. So, don't be scary, right? We don't want to traumatize them. And whenever you're presenting an activity, if you look like you don't like it, they're probably not going to be that excited about participating in the activity itself. And sometimes we are not conscious of how we present ourselves to the group. We may think that we're smiling and we actually look really terrifying, right? So just being aware of your own language to them. Also, if you're, how you're interacting. Like, are you showing them that you don't really like them indirectly? Because they pick up on that. They haven't developed all the filters that adults have yet. They can tell when you don't like them and when you do like them. Okay. More activities for young learners. So, these are all very common activities. None of these, I think, will be new to you. Listening and repeating, drilling, right? We have several good books that have a lot of different, so here's a pronunciation book. This has a lot of good activities that would help with drilling in terms of pronunciation. This one is vocabulary, has a lot of activities that can help you drill in vocabulary. If I didn't make it clear earlier, part of what I'm doing is also introducing the different activities that you can check out, or the different books full of activities to help supplement your lessons. Listening and performing a task. So this particular book, Songs and Rhymes, has a lot of very basic songs like Skip, Skip to My Lou. did I do, yeah, Lou, skip to my Lou, whatever, they have different titles for all of them. 10 in the bed, 1 fell off and hit his head, all that kind of stuff. And then they actually have photocopyable side charts where they can draw pictures or they have to do a whole bunch of tasks. My favorite one I think might have been checked out yesterday. It's awesome. And it's basically using the Itsy Bitsy spider. And my favorite part of the Itsy Bitsy spider is they have this like crazy drawing of this huge spider with, you know, all the legs, and you have to color it in, and they'll write words, and you have to color the color that rhymes with the word. So here I wrote glue, so what would the color be? Blue. And so it's quite fun, and I hope that it will come back soon, but these books have really great activities like that inside. Maybe I just think they're really great, but I love that. Discovery boxes and mirrors. Discovery boxes are similar to the other boxes we talked about earlier, but instead of them putting the items in, you put the items in, and then they have like an archaeological dig to find items, see if they like them, stuff like that. Mirroring is for working on emotional intelligence, and it's actually a drama activity that's silent, so it's very easy, everyone can do it. And basically you're following the actions of another student, right? And then the teacher then starts to call out feelings or emotions, and then they have to mirror and produce the emotion. So that can then evolve to them saying phrases with different emotions as well. Okay, animal alphabet, that's just making sure they have, here's an example, these little, these are the ABCs, and this one has actual items with the alphabet, but animal alphabet is just attaching animals to like A, antelope, B, boar, etc. Freeze walk is another theater activity, and freeze walk is one of my favorite activities because you can use it to get them very excited, or you can use it to calm them down. And basically what you're doing is you're reading, you have to pre-prepare it because you want to make sure that you remember what you say. And you also want to make sure that you're testing certain vocabulary. So for me it's really good to tell if they have internalized very basic vocabulary. So I might say, you have to have a fairly large space and they are walking. So I will say walk, pretend you are at school. Go to a table and take a pen. And you continue to give them a series of directions, a little bit like Simon says, but at some point you say freeze, and they have to freeze doing whatever they were doing. So you could have them pretending to drop their bag on the floor and then picking up all the items from their bag. And you could actually name the items so that you're testing, do they know a book? Do they know a pen? Do they know a pencil? Stuff like that. And the idea is basically to work with the emotional intelligence, to get them to feel it. And it's I've used it successfully. You can then have them write their own freeze walks, and they get very excited about that. But they will have crazy freeze walks, like there are frogs falling from the sky. Try not to step on them. That was a true story. Okay, so these are some activities. One thing to remember before I let you get started looking at all the resources we have available for you is that we have to make sure that we are aware and stay aware that their egos are being built. Like what we are doing is laying the foundation for the rest of their lives. That's a huge responsibility. It obviously has to be taken very seriously. So we talked about positive reinforcement already. If anyone has anything they'd like to add, you're free to do so now. Anybody? There is a workshop that I did on classroom management that has more information about positive reinforcement as well, in terms of how you can manage the classroom in a more positive way. And this is based on research and is followed in the United States and Canada. In Britain, I just found out that it was also followed in Britain and in Australia. Self-esteem builders. So self-esteem builders are not only what we say, but making sure that the activities that we're giving them give them the opportunity to complete successfully those activities, right? Because that builds their self-esteem. They're like, yes, I did it. Awesome. Using laughter as a tool. I already mentioned this, but I laugh at myself a lot in class. And part of the reason for that is just because I don't really take myself that seriously most of the time, but also because I want the students to see that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to laugh at yourself when you make mistakes. That's not scary, that's not wrong. But I want to also say that I never laugh at them, right? Because it's not a point to be like, haha, look at how stupid that person was, right? That would not really help build the ego in a good way. Okay, and I try to build their comfort in speaking by providing a lot of activities and a lot of encouragement. And a lot of scaffolding, to recycle that word that you may have just learned to associate with a concept you already knew. Okay, so these are some of the activities that I use. I would like to, we will do the small groups in a minute so that you can look at the resources that we have for you. But I wanted to just share the end is almost here, guys, don't worry. Successful teachers, according to the research presented in these books, successful teachers develop interesting tasks that give students meaningful work to do. Not just time filling, but something that they can feel helps them grow. They design tasks to allow students choices and to support their different levels. Successful teachers also find out what students are thinking, what they're puzzling over, feeling, and struggling with through one-on-one discussions, journals and learning logs, which can also be drawings, doesn't have to be written, and student presentations. However, when I do student presentations, I frequently do them as groups, because that can be a little intimidating for an 8-year-old to give a presentation to the whole class. That would not be really appropriate. Okay, successful teachers also assess students to identify their strengths and learning approaches as well as their needs. They use scaffolding is the process of successful conversation steps and learning experience that takes students from their different starting points to a proficient performance. Successful teachers pay attention to developing student confidence, motivation, and effort, and to making students feel connected and capable in school. Okay, and I think that now we have the references. So, this information was taken from, I know for sure that we have H.D. Brown Teaching by Principles, and we have like 3 copies of this book, so you have no problem finding that. I don't know if we have a copy of this book, but if you are interested, you may be able to find portions of it online and or buy it from the publisher. Which will probably cost you $50. But it is a good book to have in your library if you're interested. Okay, so I know we don't stop for another 10 or so minutes. So what I would like for us to do is, again, here are a bunch of books. There are cookies, so help yourself to the cookies and help yourself to the books. Look through, see if you have any exciting activities that you would like to use in your classrooms. We also have great little readers. I like these, they're butterflies. and they're butterfly sprites or fairies, and they talk about different, like this one is about strawberries, and they have apples, and there are little stories about different kinds of fruit. There's jam, and then they talk about the apples, fruits, and grapes. Anyway, there's 3 of these different books. This one talks about seasons. So if your students are learning about the different seasons, it talks about the butterflies and the seasons. And this one is about flowers. Although the flowers are not really flowers that, it's like morning glory and stuff like this. So I'm not sure they would really need to know the names of these flowers, but the books are nice. And then for very young people, we have these awesome big books that you could read to them, and so that all of them might be able to see the pictures. And these books, so this is Rain Talk, they're very basic, but they're nice. And we have several sets of them back there. So you go around the corner, and they're all the way down on the floor in the middle of the back column back there. So feel free to look through these, find a book that you might like to use with your classes, and eat cookies. Okay, so I'll give you 10 minutes to peruse, and then we'll be finished. Yeah, thanks for coming. For those of you who are leaving, we do have a book club. You're encouraged to join. This is the book for next month. It's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And the book club will be the first Monday in, what's next month? March? Yes, this is in February. Okay. And we also have a compilation of other books as well that we have recently read. The Jane Austen Book Club. Same Kind of Different is Me is going to be soon. It's an amazing story, along with The Heart is the Lonely Hunter. So please feel free to check out books and join us for the book club. All right, and those of you who are staying, enjoy. Where did my key go? Yeah. I'll come in.
These are just for like leasing, like how would I get a copy of something that I like permanently?
Oh, yeah, so typical library. We do have a copier, and so if they're photocopiable, then you can make copies of them at the copier. If you wanted to borrow it, are you teaching here?
I was teaching here. I'm getting ready to go to my next destination.
Okay.
So that's why I'm asking.
I see what you mean. Just, make a copy of it.
Because there's some materials, especially this one here.
This is an amazing amount of resources at this center. Like, I'm impressed. Like, we have everything.
And this is for specifically for teaching.
Yes, that's right.
Serious?
Yeah, and it's sponsored by the U.S. Embassy, and it's been here for many years, maybe 15 years. And so this is just a collection of everything that we've gotten over the past 15 or so years. So there's over here, like if you're only with young learners, or if you're with older learners, you can see that we actually have textbooks over here. This is my favorite section because this section is all of these kinds of books, right?